Hello, my quilting friends. My name is Leah Day, and we are playing with this beautiful heart quilt. And we're going to see how much space we have to quilt in 3 different unique long arms. We're going to test out each machine and see how much space we have for quilting, depending on the size of the long arm. So let's get started. We're getting started with the Unique 16X Elite long arm. I've loaded my heart quilt onto the Q-Zone Queen frame and set it up so I can pull up thread on a seam line on the top edge of the heart. These are 16-inch blocks, and as I pull my machine down, you can see that I can't reach the entire area. The motor on the long arm bottoms out against the back rail of the frame. I have around 3 to 4 inches of space in this quilt block that I cannot reach with this machine. So how do you handle this situation? In this case, you're going to quilt the block in sections, first quilting the upper part of the heart, then advance and stitch the rest of the block. It's a good idea to outline the area you can stitch in some way. In this case, I used a piece of painter's tape. You could also mark a line with a marking pencil or baste a line across. If I was using a hoop frame, I'd base stitch the zone after loading my quilt on the frame so I could see my quilting space clearly. And don't feel like you have to quilt right up to the painter's tape. I did, and my quilting design got wonky and the hearts were really squished. I had to rip out some stitches, then advance the quilt forward, and this time I marked the design lightly with the ceramic marking pencil. Marking in this case can save you time because you'll know where you're quilting, how to flow through the space, and you won't stitch a really weird looking heart. So it's not a deal breaker to use a smaller long arm machine. I love the Unique 16X and 16X Elite long arms. They are awesome long arm machines that offer you great space without breaking the bank. Now let's check out the Unique 19X Elite long arm. Here I've loaded the heart quilt on the Evolution hoop frame and set it up again to pull up thread with the long arm as far back as it can go. As I pull the machine forward, nope, I cannot quilt an entire 16-inch block in one pass. There's just an inch of space I cannot reach. And I apologize, this isn't a perfect apples to apples test here. You might actually have more space with the Unique 19X Elite if you're using a different frame. The space you have for quilting is affected by the thickness of the rails and back clamps if you're using a hoop frame. So again, I pull up thread and begin quilting, stitching across the heart in rows. In this case, I'm quilting some of my favorite heart free motion filler designs and stitching them on a large scale. This flows across the block really easily and quickly. Your goal is to interlock the design rows together, kind of make them nest, so the design looks like one consistent texture across the heart. And this is a design point. If you are quilting a large-scale filler design, you could leave that 1 inch empty. But if you're doing a design like straight line ruler quilting across the hearts, you'll probably have to advance the quilt to stitch the remaining space. So that's just one of those things to think about when planning your quilting design and quilting on a smaller long arm machine. Now let's switch to the Unique 21X Elite, our largest unique long arm machine. And in this case, we can quilt the entire 16-inch heart, and we can outline quilt it and quilt some of the background as well. So I decided to ruler quilt around the hearts using the ditcher ruler. I call this echo ditching, and it's a great way to emphasize a pieced area of your quilt and add a buffer, an empty space between the design inside the heart block and the design quilted in the background. My quilt is loaded on the Evolution Elite frame set up at 12 feet long. The Unique 21 is only compatible with the Evolution Elite or the Evolution hoop frame, and you might experience a bit less space if you attach an idler rail to your Evolution Elite. But just like the other long arm machines, quilting the filler design within the heart flowed the exact same, quilting in rows from left to right, from right to left until the entire space is filled. So even with the larger long arm, I will still quilt the hearts the same, but with more space, I can be more creative. I don't have to advance the quilt at all. I can quilt the heart, echo ditch around it, and quilt some of the background as well. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing how this heart quilt fits on 3 different long arm machines. You're not going to be able to quilt across the entire heart on a Unique 16. You'll be able to almost quilt to the end on a Unique 19, and on a Unique 21X Elite, you'll be able to quilt not only the entire 16-inch heart, you'll also be able to outline quilt it and do a little bit of the background. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing how much space you have for quilting, how much creative room you have to play depending on the size of your unique long arm. And this is one of those things that is fixed. There is no upgrade, there is no update, there is no changing the size of the long arm that you purchase. This is always going to be a limitation whenever you go to quilt bigger blocks. And generally, I can just honestly say from my own experience buying long arms, I'm always wanting a little bit more space to play. So I hope that you'll come and check out our Qunique long arms. You can find the Qunique 16X Elite, 19X Elite, and 21X Elite at leaday.com/longarm. Until next time, let's go quilt.